What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them?
Spending is a tax. As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money.
Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
The Patrick Riggins Show. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Higher and higher. Hey, that's this show. It's climbing higher and higher in the ratings, confounding all those people who say a weekend show can't pull an audience. And it's really all thanks to all the listeners who tune in every week, whether it's over the air, over the internet, or listening during the week. You're the ones making this show successful. You're the ones making this show the anomaly that people are trying to figure out. Hey, is it conservative? Is it liberal? Nope, it's American. Here we're fighting for the original, the true American values of freedom and liberty. It's no wonder our Facebook page has rocketed through 10,000 people in less than 5 months and, frankly, is knocking on the door of 11,000. It's because people hear a show that isn't fighting for Washington. It isn't fighting for government from either side. It's fighting for the American people, us, the citizens, the ones who are making this country work and still being taxed to death. Heck, we've been taxed after we die. And helping bring you all this magnificence is the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and our over-the-air broadcast station here in Knoxville, Tennessee, News Talk 98.7 WOKI. Before we get going with some of the happenings this week, I want to get to something here in the first segment. When I'm out and about during the week, I run into a lot of people, and a lot of them are fans of the show, and I get asked a lot of different questions. Now, one that occurs with some regularity is, Patrick, how can I live in a more libertarian way? What can I do in my life to see how far I'm along in my journey to mind my own business and let others mind theirs? The best way is to catch yourself when you see someone doing something that isn't harming you and isn't harming anyone else, yet you wish ill on them for doing whatever it is they're doing. Now, a good example of this is if you're driving up the interstate and someone passes you driving over the speed limit. Do you immediately hope, hey, I hope there's a cop sitting on the road up ahead that'll catch them? Do you think, boy, I hope that motorcycle cop that sits up here all the time is up here today? That would slow that car down. Or you see someone who's been pulled over for speeding and you think, they got caught speeding. When you catch yourself thinking that way, you need to immediately stop and think, well, who are they hurting by speeding? Where is the victim in this supposed crime? And don't give me the society thing. That's BS. If we're going to say society is the victim, then society is the victim whenever anyone is on the road doing anything. There's always a chance someone in society could be hurt. Society isn't a valid victim. But Patrick, they're endangering my life by driving over the speed limit. Well, here's a news flash. Just about everyone is driving over the speed limit. Are you going to tell me everyone is endangering your law? Using that logic, we should pull everyone off the road and only allow people to use it one at a time. The fact of the matter is, everyone who's been driving for any amount of time has broken a speed limit law, usually multiple times a day. Did anyone die? So if we don't have a victim, how do we have a crime? Speed limits don't make driving safer. Just look at how people drive out there on the roads. There's plenty of idiots who drive at or under the speed limit who can't keep it in their own lane. In a free society, until there's an accident where we have a victim, how can you have a crime? This is what you need to be thinking about when you find yourself hoping someone gets a speeding ticket because they passed you on the road. You see how this works? You don't want people telling you how fast to drive. As I already mentioned, every driver has broken a speed limit. Every driver. But if you're thinking it's okay when you do it, but not when others do, then you're being a hypocrite. Your little libertarian voice should be screaming in your head at that point. And by libertarian, I mean someone who believes in the original American values of freedom and liberty. Those values that made this country great. Those values that are under attack by our own government. And that's just one way to tell if you're a government solutions, government-centric person, or if you're an original American values person, a freedom and liberty-loving person. If you're going to love your freedom and liberty, then you're going to have to love it when others practice it as well. If that person that's speeding is coming up on your back bumper and you're sitting in the left lane because, hey, they don't need to be driving that fast anyway, well, you've got some work to do. You're a controlling person. You want to control this other person's actions even when they aren't hurting anyone else. But not hurting anyone else isn't good enough. You don't agree with their actions, so they need to drive like you think they should. You're a government-centric person. That's how government-centric people think. You can tell me you love freedom and liberty, but your actions tell me how you really feel. You love freedom and liberty for you, but not for everyone else. You'd make an excellent government politician, or even better, a government bureaucrat. Our government is chock full of people wanting to tell others how to live. Now, if this is hitting a little too close to home, then good. You probably have some thinking to do about the principles you say you hold and the ones you actually do. Do you think people can make decisions for themselves, or do you think they need to have behavior imposed upon them? This is what I've been talking about in the last month or so when I've been saying this is government against the people. And by government, I mean people in government and people who back the government, people who want governmental control of everything and everyone in this country. You know, government should be telling us what to do. Government should be regulating everything. Government should be approving everything. If that's your belief, then you're a government person. A whole lot of people in this country, both liberals and conservatives, they think of themselves as freedom-loving Americans, but they really aren't. They love freedom for what they want, but they don't want others to have that same unlimited freedom if it involves something they disagree with. They want you to have just as much freedom as they have, but no more. They voluntarily limit their freedom in certain areas of their lives. Well, we all do. We don't all do drugs. We don't all engage in prostitution, but we should be all free to do so if we wish. Those are vices. And just like any other vices, some are harmful and some are not. But if you aren't infringing on the rights of another person, then you should be free to engage in them. Now, if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe in true American freedom and liberty, then basically you're a lab rat. You want someone else setting the boundaries. You don't trust yourself to do what's best for your life. And since you don't trust yourself to make the correct decisions, you don't trust others to do so either. And don't give me that tired old argument that some people simply can't make decisions for themselves. I've covered that before on this show. In a nutshell, we have a system for that. A judge can assign someone who is truly unable to make decisions for themselves. It can assign them a guardian. But for the rest of us, we don't need one. We can handle things on our own. Now, we may make some bad decisions. We may make some good decisions. Either way, as human beings, we have the right to do that. You know, bringing this argument real quickly into today's headlines, you people that are for Obamacare, you realize that eventually you'll be subjected to this kind of control. If you're doing things like if you're doing drugs or if you're getting speeding tickets, if you're renting mountain climbing equipment, the government's going to know it. The NSA can draw up a pretty good profile on you as a person based on your buying habits and your emails and the websites you visit. And now with the government and medical care, they can check your medical records to see what you've been to the doctor about and what they found out through their examinations. If you're doing things that the government doesn't approve of, do you think they're going to pay for your medical care? Don't you think you'll be charged more because you're taking more risks with your life, that you have more risk factors in your insurance. The government already heavily taxes products that it thinks you shouldn't be buying. Just look at tobacco. If the government is already taxing products that are risky, how hard is it going to be for it to make the argument of taxing you more personally through your health insurance for what it determines as risky behavior? The chances of you costing more in medical care are higher, therefore you have to pay more for your insurance. Used to, the government didn't know what you were up to. Heck, for the most part, your insurance company really didn't know. But now everyone is going to know. They're going to know if you fly a lot. They're going to know if you mountain climb. They're going to know if you get a lot of traffic tickets. They're going to know everything about you, and don't think they won't factor that into the equation on your medical care. After all, it's only fair, right? Hey, we're up on the first break here on the Patrick Riggin Show this week. When we return, we'll get into the aftermath of this whole government shutdown and what it really means for you, the American citizen, when we come back here on the Patrick Riggin Show. Welcome to the Patrick Riggin Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network, along with our friends at News Talk 98.7 WOKI. One of the big stories this week was the Republicans caving in on the shutdown deal. It had conservatives screaming they can't believe this is happening. They can't believe the Republicans would fold like that. The establishment on both sides, Democrat and Republican, are now trying to blame Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, along with the Tea Party, for all this. They're trying to cause so much animosity towards the Tea Party that it will largely become irrelevant. And all of these conservatives are lamenting, or can't speak. All these conservatives are lamenting the fact that the establishment has turned on these senators and the Tea Party. In fact, anyone associated with the Tea Party as well. These conservatives can't understand how this can happen. Why did the establishment do this? It's all very simple. It's because you supported Mitt Romney for president. That's why they did this. That's why they sold you out. All you conservative Republicans who were backing Romney, and that's 99% of you, Google all these people who endorsed Mitt Romney. All these people who, when they were doing that, they also made fun of Ron Paul. I've played clips of Rush Limbaugh calling him a kook and laughing about the people that supported him.
This Ron Paul is going to destroy this party if they keep, if this is nuts on parade.
Yeah, there he is. He's going to destroy the party. All this blind party loyalty is now coming back to bite you. When the establishment and the Republican Party sees that you'll support a liberal, and yes, Mitt is a liberal, for goodness sakes, a big part of Obamacare is based on his Romney care in Massachusetts. So when the establishment sees that you'll support a liberal running for the Republican presidential ticket, they aren't real worried about betraying you in Washington. It's all about getting our guy into office. Yeah, that's what's important. Never mind this guy doesn't agree with 90% of Americans. He's a Republican, so that's who we need. Even Ann Coulter's been running around promoting her new book saying it's all about winning. It's all about getting Republicans into office. Yeah, Ann, a lot of good that's doing in the Senate, isn't it? Of course, she doesn't even agree with the more libertarian side of the party anyway. Go back through our archives on YouTube.com and you'll find what I've addressed, both her and Rush, about their fake American values. In fact, if I check on it real quick, let's see. Yeah, here it is. YouTube.com/Patrick Riggin Show, March 24th, 2013. Title of the show, Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter on Freedom. You can go back and check that out after this show. Don't go now. Listen to this show, then go. So, yes, conservatives who supported Mitt Romney are to blame for their leader's betrayal. These same people are the ones who screwed over the Ron Paul supporters at the state and national conventions. Again, I had the clips from those as well. Go back through the
The lesson is you support these people who are moderate and liberal, then don't be surprised when they act that way. You supported them. You must agree with them. They're not going to support the conservatives, and sure as heck aren't going to support the libertarians. Putting these liberal people in power and expecting them to vote as conservatives, that's insanity. There's no other way to explain it. If you're actively supporting their pick for president against someone who would have been much better, Ron Paul, then you have no one to blame but yourself. You conservative pundits and commentators are going to have to stop this blind party loyalty. This fanatical, any Republican is better than third party belief is going to have to be dropped if you want the leadership to listen to you. Otherwise, they'll know you always toe the line when election time comes. Sure, the Republicans are running a liberal, but the national conservative media will support them no matter what. Who else are they going to support? That's the thinking in the Washington establishment. You know, it's amazing. I can sit over here in Knoxville, Tennessee and see this perfectly, but all these national conservative leaders can't. With all their inside information, with all their resources, this small but growing show sees their party better than they can see it themselves. I guess it's because I don't have blind party loyalty. I made a speech a while back to the local Libertarian Party meeting and told them I don't trust any party, not even theirs. I don't trust anyone who will say, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or I'm a Libertarian. I trust people who say, I'm not for any party. I'm for us, the citizens of this country. That's what we need. A government that'll keep to itself and let the citizens take care of themselves. We can do it much better than any government can any day of the week. Besides, what's a political party anyway except a glorified union? We, the employees of these, or employers of these people, and I like to remind you about that as much as I can. You're the employer, and these people in government are our employees. We hire them, we pay them, thus we're the employer and they're the employees. So we have these two political parties, which you could just as easily call political unions. We have these two political unions who send us a few prospective employees and tell us we can only choose from the ones they send us. They have the election system all tied up in rules and regulations so as to make it as hard, if not impossible, to run someone outside the system. The exact same thing a union does in the workplace. They get laws passed making it hard to hire anyone except who they send over. And if you try to run someone for office from outside the political union system, you're met with violence, just like a workplace union. Witness what the Ron Paul supporters went through at some of the state conventions during the last presidential election. In a few cases, they were physically attacked by the Republican union thugs. So we have these two political unions being run by the bosses back in Washington, and they'll only allow people to be nominated with whom they agree. The people who will give them their kickback in the form of voting the way they're told. So just like a business that's hobbled by unions not working towards getting the best workers hired, but working to get the best connected workers hired, well, this same thing happens in these political unions. They work to get the best connected people hired, not necessarily the best qualified. The problem is we're having to suffer for it. If a union business turns out a shoddy or overpriced product, then we can choose to shop somewhere else. When we're hiring people in government, we don't have that luxury. We can't shop around. It's a monopoly. Just like having an unproductive and unqualified employee in our union business that's next to impossible to fire, same thing with our political union employees. We can't get them fired because they're already entrenched in the system. That's why the incumbent wins such a high percentage of re-elections. They're in good with the political union bosses who protect these people and help get them reelected because they vote the correct way. They show deference to the political union leaders. They don't have to worry about what you think. The union machine will keep them in office because of the low voter turnouts at every election. That's what I've said over and over in the show. Your vote is never wasted. I covered it again just a few weeks ago. By voting third party when you don't like what the two political unions have to offer, you're telling them you're participating in elections, and a movement is starting to build and grow. that their time of having our political system tied up between the union of Democrats and the union of Republicans, that's coming to a close. If we can de-unionize our political system, we'll get more and better candidates running, and that can only be a good thing. I'd like to see tons of people running for office, so many so that we have to have a runoff or two. That would demonstrate a high interest in what's going on in our government and show that people are willing to step in and make the changes needed. It would also pull the system away from the two political unions and open it up to anyone who wants to run, which incidentally is the last thing the Republican and Democrat political unions want to see. Don't you ever wonder why they fight so hard to keep everyone else out? It's because they're afraid someone from the outside of their unions will show the rest of the country, hey, there's a better choice. The Democrats never talk about decentralizing power from government, but the Republicans sure do. Why don't we start decentralizing power away from these two huge political unions? That would go a long way to making the citizens of this country more free. Oh, but they don't want to do that. You see, they want to talk about freedom up to the point that it threatens their power. Then all of a sudden, having a choice is a bad thing. Pulling power away from the federal government and moving it to the people is a good thing. But pulling power away from the political unions and moving it out to the people is dangerous to this country. And that was said by more than one Republican during Ron Paul's candidacy. Even played Rush saying it. Look, if you want to know what the result of all this is going to be, this government shutdown, wait, time to get this for the half-hour break. Hey, when we come back, I'll finish up this shutdown business, and I'll tell you what the result of all this is going to be. And we'll get to a couple other stories before we run out of time this week. We'll be back here on the Patrick Reagan Show right after this break. Join us in a couple of minutes. Oh, yes. Wouldn't it be nice if we just had a government that minded its own business? Welcome back to the second half hour of the Patrick Reagan Show, the fastest growing show on the worldwide Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. And you can also listen to us over the broadcast airwaves on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. You can also catch them online too, newstalk987.com, and listen to us there. When we left off before the half-hour break, I was talking about the government shutdown and what the result of all of it will be, what's been going on. Well, number one, if you're on government aid, well, then you're okay for the moment. Your free money that's taken from other taxpayers is safe for now. You'll still be getting your bills paid courtesy of your fellow citizens. You know, I hesitate to say this, but probably the least you could do is thank other people when you're out and about. I see people thanking policemen and people in the military, but I never see these people on government aid thanking the other citizens for the money they receive, because that's where the money's coming from. And so the least you could do is be appreciative. Anyway, getting back to my point. You people on government aid will still be getting your checks, so don't worry about that. You're okay for now. And two, if you're working for the federal government, or if you're somehow tied to the federal government, and that's where all the income growth in this country is, you know. A study came out just a little bit ago that top median pay is in federal government. That's why the top median income counties are surrounding Washington, D.C. They're getting all that big fat pay thanks to the American taxpayers. So if you're one of the government workers or one of the connected people to federal government, then you're okay. So the government aid recipients are okay, and the government workers and contractors are okay. So who does that leave out? Well, it's the bulk of the citizens of this country, the middle class, the ones paying the freight for those other two classes of people. Every one of us out here working every day, going to a job, trying to get ahead, all of us in between those two other groups of government people. You see, we're the ones getting screwed in this equation. A huge part of our money is being taxed away from us just so the government can transfer it to these other two groups of people. The people jumping on the government aid bandwagon on the lower end, and these rich fat cats working for government on the higher end. You know, thinking about it, I don't see a whole lot of difference between these two groups. They're both getting money courtesy of the American taxpayer, and we don't get a whole lot of work out of either one. We actually get zero work out of the people we're supporting, and we get minimal work out of the people in government. We just came out of a shutdown where a bunch of them were deemed non-essential, but they're right back at work now. Those non-essential employees. Gee, I'm glad we're paying for people we don't need. So, you see how everyone in the middle is getting screwed over. If you're in the middle class and a party loyalist, then you're basically a masochist. You're supporting the very people who are screwing you over, fighting for them to win elections, fighting to beat the other team. If you think about it, this is the exact thing that happened in the Soviet Union and is happening right now in North Korea and most other dictatorial countries. You have a nation that is starving, people can't get enough to eat, and people who are actually dying because there isn't enough food, and manufactured consumer goods or were in the old Russia and probably now in North Korea. They're such low quality if they're even produced at all. All the resources of the country went to support the state, the government. If the government wanted it for their use, for the use of the military, hey, then no problem. If it was for the citizens, yeah, good luck. You probably weren't going to get it. And if you did, it probably didn't work or didn't work well. A lot of you old enough to remember all that, how we made fun of Russian toilet paper being rough burlap. The thing is, if you look around, it's happening right now in this country. All of our resources are going to feed an ever-expanding and growing government. We just tried to trim back the money it's spending, and you thought Ted Cruz was trying to derail the entire government system. The shrieking and screaming was deafening. Him and Senator Mike Lee are still being crucified over it, along with the Tea Party. All because they were trying to stop all this government spending. Government depriving the citizens of the resources of this country because it's sucking them all up. Heck, for a recent example, the NSA. Look at the huge computer spying complex we've been talking about outside Salt Lake City. The huge amounts of electricity being consumed, all so the government can spy on you and everyone else in the world. Unconstitutionally, I might add. And that's just one complex. That doesn't take into account the resources worldwide our government is using. I've addressed this before on this show. People ask, how could the citizens of this country or that country let their government get this bad? Well, you're witnessing it right now. We just had the debt limit raised yet again. The government is continuing to spend much more money than it's taking in. Where were the people protesting in Washington? Where were the people demanding the government stop this? Where are they now? I hope they at least show up on election day to vote, that hopefully we can manage to get over 50% participation in a non-presidential election year. Otherwise, you'll be able to answer that question really easily. Well, we all stood by and allowed it to happen. When you vote for these congressional representatives who voted for this debt limit, who vote for to continue the spying, who vote to continue traipsing around the world murdering people with drones without a trial, who vote for all this unconstitutional legislation, when you vote to put these same people back in office, you might as well be voting, yes, I think the government should be able to do whatever it wants. Yes, I think the government shouldn't listen to the people of this country. Yes, I think the government should ignore the Constitution, including my rights. When you vote back in these same people, that's what you're saying. And all the citizens wonder why we get the government we have. Well, we deserve it. We're allowing it to happen. When someone says, how did the United States government get so corrupted, get so intrusive, get so tyrannical? Well, you can proudly say, we essentially voted to allow it to do so. That's also what you're saying when you don't vote at all. When you stay home because you don't like either party's candidate. You're saying, yes, what the government is doing isn't harming me enough to get out and support someone who will stop it. But back to the old Soviet Union. Also, did you notice all the politicians and the connected people in government were all doing better than the citizens? And as I just mentioned, the top counties in median income surround Washington, D.C. It's happening here right now. The only difference is our government still has enough money to pay off the people on government aid, to pay off the people receiving benefits so they'll vote to keep the money coming. But when the time comes that the money's running out, all you people who are supporting your so-called defenders in government, they're not going to help you out. You're a pawn that you're being used until you can't help them anymore. But guess who gets to keep their money? It's the people in charge. The people in government get to keep their money, keep their jobs. This is why we must work to move all this money and power out of Washington and back out to the people. That's the only way the people will be left with anything. Because when the free stuff runs out, the government is going to look out for itself and not you. We're already up on the last break of the Patrick Riggin Show. Wow, this is going by quickly. Hey, when we come back, we're going to get to this Walmart story. I've just got to talk about it. This is going to be a short segment coming up, though, but we'll get this in. Don't miss it. You're listening to the Patrick Riggin Show on Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. Welcome back to the Patrick Riggin Show. Here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and locally on News Talk 97 WOKI. I'll embarrass the producer here. In radio, when you're starting to come back, they tell you, okay, you're hot. And every time I just want to say, I know. All right. Okay. Oh, what goes on behind the radio sometimes. Behind the mic, I guess. All right. Since this is a short segment, I want to jump right into this Walmart story. And I'm sure a lot of you already heard about this. What we saw in the Walmart down in Louisiana, and like I said, I'm sure a lot of you heard this, you've seen the videos. But for those of you who don't know, what happened was the system for administrating the EBT cards went down. So every card had its spending limit removed. The result was a massive run on some stores where people were buying baskets of items that they knew they weren't supposed to be buying. One prominent example that was mentioned a lot was a lady who was detained when the system came back up, and she was caught trying to buy $700 worth of merchandise on an EBT card with only 49 cents left on it. With the system, when it did come back up, multiple baskets of merchandise were left in the store aisles as people abandoned everything and just left the store. And one of the stories that ran in the media said, while many retailers promptly halted the use of EBT cards since the outage meant they couldn't see the cardholders' spending limits, Walmart let the cardholders go ahead and buy food and other necessities at the 2 Louisiana stores and others across the country. Walmart has the biggest share, or about 20% of the U.S. EBT and other related spending, estimated consultant Craig Johnson of the Customer Growth Partners. The percentage of U.S. households on food stamps program, or so-called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's the SNAP thing, little things you see in the stores. The percentage of U.S. households on that has risen to 13.6% last year, from 8.6% in 2008. That's according to USA Today, citing the Census Bureau data. Almost 14% American households on that. So here's Walmart clearly knowing something's up. They know a large percentage of these people are stealing money from the government, yet they continue to allow them to do it. Are they not an accessory to probably multiple cases of felony theft? Oh, wait, it was theft that supports a government program, so we'll overlook that. Now, a lot of commentators were talking about this story this week, and they're bemoaning the state of affairs in this country. And over I heard that this was an indictment of the moral decay in our country and how all this trash on television, this music, loose moral standards, and this is just another example of it. Well, and they're really all wrong. All the conservative mantra, all the liberal excuse-making, that's all wrong. The reason you saw what happened in Louisiana isn't because of moral decay. It isn't because of these people aren't attending church or something. It isn't indicative of what our country's become. It's an example of human beings acting in their best interest. These people loading up their carts, they didn't see it as stealing. They see it as getting away with some extra stuff this week. They've been told they deserve this free money. They've been told that this country owes them a living. It owes them food. It owes them housing. It owes them medical care. How can they be stealing when this country is going to give them everything they want anyway? And Walmart certainly didn't lift a finger to stop them. It's going to get its money either way you go. So why did this happen? Why did all these players in the game allow it to continue? And why did the people steal? Why did Walmart allow them to do it? And what is this saying about our country as a whole? It's because these people are dealing from a position of getting the best outcome for themselves. And this is what human beings do. This is why true capitalism works. Not what we have in this country. It's just crony capitalism. It's a bastardized version of capitalism. It's distorted by government. In a truly free country, we wouldn't even come close to having this problem occur. You see, the government wouldn't be taking money from one citizen and handing it to another in the form of charity. And that's the problem right there. It's not a moral problem. It's not because we've lost our moral compass. And that's what's being said on many prominent nationwide conservative talk shows. I mean, you listen to them just like I do. No, if it was a moral problem, or if it was a moral problem, then we'd see it occurring all throughout history. We've always had people in this country of varying moral standards. It's never been a problem, though, before the last 100 years or so, because it wasn't a cost to the rest of us citizens. Now enter the government. The government takes money from one person, essentially stealing it. If you don't want to give part of your money to the government to give to someone else, it'll take it from you. Now, and if you do that same thing, it's known as stealing. So we have people buying more merchandise than their EBT card is supposed to allow. Now, who's paying for it? It's us, the American taxpayers. That's where this money comes from. The government takes it from you and gives it to someone else to pay their bills. In this case, their food bills. If they buy too much, well, tough. You'll be taxed to cover it. But if we didn't have this program in the first place, it wouldn't matter. It never would have happened. Now that's the real root of the problem. It's not morals. Who cares what your morals are? As long as you aren't infringing on my rights, your morals are none of my concern. Taking money from me to pay your bills, now that is infringing on my rights. That's the real problem. If there was no legalized theft from American citizens, in this case otherwise known as the EBT or SNAP program, then this would have never happened in the first place. These people would only be buying what they could afford. There wouldn't be this free-for-all because no program will exist to cover their expenses. They would be responsible for paying their own way. And we're told it's the morals, and it's not. We always have people that have cheated the system because we're all human. This is why you can't trust people in government. They're all human. They're fallible. They're vulnerable to this siren call of money and power. But if the money and power doesn't exist, then no problem. Who cares? If we stuck to the Constitution, these people wouldn't have the ability to interfere in our lives. They wouldn't be taking money from one person and giving it to another that's cheating the system. All right. Wow. We're already coming up on the last part of the show here. Hey, if you want more information about us, you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Patrick Riggin Show. Be sure and hit the like button so you'll be kept updated on that. YouTube channel also. Show archives are there, youtube.com/Patrick Riggin Show. And if you want to email us, PatrickReaganShow@gmail.com. Remember, liberty begins with you in your mind. Join me next Saturday afternoon at 4. We'll be fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. Hey, thanks for listening and have a fantastic week.
Son of a son, son of a son. Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on The Patrick Reagan Show.